She said another man's name while I was inside her, quietly, under her breath, like it belonged, like it had been there before. The bedroom was quiet except for the soft rhythm of the headboard against the wall. No music, no words. We hadn't been like this in a while. Her hand in mine, her breath catching just under my jaw, bodies moving the way they used to when things were simple. It wasn't angry. It wasn't desperate. It was just long overdue. And then she said it. Not loud, not a shout, just close to my ear, like a breath, like something that had been waiting inside her mouth too long. A name, not mine. The moment froze. Not the movement, but everything beneath it. She went still right after. I felt her body tense, then go soft again, like she was hoping I didn't catch it, hoping I'd let the rest carry us through. I said nothing. Just finished, slowly, then rolled onto my side. She reached for me, pressed her lips to my shoulder. "Sorry," she whispered. I was dreaming. I think I was half asleep. Her voice was too steady, too rehearsed. I didn't speak, didn't push, didn't react. I just let her hand rest on my chest until she drifted off. And when her breathing evened out and the room went still again, I lay there with my eyes open and stared at the ceiling. I wasn't angry. Not yet. But I replayed it again in my head, the way she said it, the way she froze, the softness in her voice, like she cared for the man she imagined. She'd said someone else's name while she was with me, and not in a fight, not in guilt, but in the one moment a person tells the truth without meaning to. The next morning, I got up before her, not out of tension, just instinct. My body didn't feel like resting anymore. I made coffee the way I always do, 2 mugs, one a little weaker, the way she likes it. She came down wrapped in her robe, eyes heavy, yawning like someone who had nothing to hide. She kissed my cheek and told me she slept well, said something about her dreams, light and forgettable. Not a single flicker of the night before. I watched her wrap her hands around the mug, same grip, same seat at the table, but something was off. Or maybe it was me. Maybe everything looked different because I was looking at it for the first time. She tapped through her phone without really reading anything, laughed once at a message, then turned the screen face down. Not quickly, just neatly, like it was a habit. It wasn't. That detail stuck. The day moved like normal. She left for work. I stayed home. That name she whispered last night, it had weight, and whatever she was doing today, it probably had his fingerprints on it. That night, we watched a show on the couch. She curled against me, same way she used to. When the credits rolled, she kissed my neck, smiled up at me like everything was fine, and I smiled back, because I needed her to keep believing I hadn't heard anything, that I hadn't already started tracing the crack she'd made with a name that didn't belong in our bed. 3 days later, on a Saturday, we stopped by Monica's place to drop off a folding table we'd borrowed for a birthday dinner a few weeks earlier. Lauren insisted we both go, said it'd be quick. We hadn't left the house together in days. Monica and Lauren had known each other since college. Close friends, never had a falling out, the kind of bond that stays light but goes deep. We stayed 20 minutes, talked about work, the usual. They did most of the talking. I stood by the kitchen window, sipping a soda, letting their voices fill the room. It was nothing important, updates about a local festival, a new gym opening, someone's dog getting sick. Then Monica said it. She turned to Lauren and said, mid-laugh, "God and Jason with the projector? He looked like he was trying to sell shares in himself." Jason, the same name. She didn't even pause when she said it, didn't realize the weight of it. Lauren did. She gave Monica a quick look, too quick, then smiled like it was nothing, said, "He's still full of himself." Monica kept talking, but I'd stopped listening. Jason said out loud, in casual company, no hesitation, not a dream, not imagined, real, alive, present in her world. And I remembered how that name had sounded when it left her mouth in bed, soft, familiar, unfiltered. It wasn't an accident, not anymore. Whatever Jason was, he was someone Monica knew about, which meant he wasn't a fantasy. He was a presence. We said our goodbyes 15 minutes later. Lauren was quiet in the car, said she had a headache, turned the radio low and rested her head against the window. I kept my eyes on the road and quietly moved that name from suspicion to confirmation. That night, she went to bed early. No shower, no usual scroll through her phone beside me, no kiss goodnight. She said her head was still hurting, that it had been a long day. I told her I understood. She turned away before I finished the sentence. I lay next to her for an hour, eyes open, listening to the rhythm of her breath. Even that had changed. She used to breathe softly when she slept, almost silent. Now it came uneven, light, then shallow, like her body couldn't settle all the way down. The next morning, she left for the gym earlier than usual, didn't ask if I wanted coffee, didn't touch my shoulder, just said, "I'll see you around lunchtime," and left before I could respond. She came back 2 hours later, hair pulled into a high ponytail, skin flushed. She smiled when she walked in, too easily. She moved through the kitchen like she was checking boxes. Fridge, water bottle, banana. Then upstairs. I stayed seated at the dining table, flipping slowly through an old manual I wasn't really reading. I didn't follow her. I didn't ask questions. She came back down 20 minutes later, freshly showered, makeup light but deliberate, keys in hand. "I'm going to stop by the shop," she said. "You need anything?" I said no. She leaned over to kiss me on the cheek. It landed, but it didn't feel like contact. It felt like habit, like autopilot. The door clicked shut behind her. The silence in the house felt cleaner than usual. Not peaceful, just empty. Like someone had taken the warmth out of it and left everything else where it was. She didn't owe me anything that day. No promises, no explanations. But something in me already knew. She had made space for someone else, and I was just occupying the part she hadn't cleared out yet. The following Saturday, Corey came by to borrow the power drill. Lauren's younger brother, 3 years her junior, easygoing, never involved in anything. We'd always gotten along. He never pried, never pushed, just a beer on the porch kind of guy. She wasn't home when he stopped by, said she had a vendor meeting downtown for one of her clients. Left that morning in heels and lipstick, dressed like she was going somewhere important. I didn't ask who the meeting was with. Istam she didn't offer. Corey showed up a little past noon, asked about the drill, cracked a joke about how long I'd been married, and started telling me about his week. That's when he mentioned it. Something casual, a story about a client appreciation night at a hotel bar. One of those open bar events where people in suits pretend they aren't desperate to network. "I saw Lauren there, actually," he said. "Didn't know she was working with Madison Tech." I looked at him. "I don't think she is." He shrugged. "Maybe she's consulting or something. She was with some guy, Jason something, sales guy, tall, slick hair, blue button down, kind of full of himself. He said it like it didn't matter. Like he wasn't describing the man who had broken into my marriage without ever stepping foot in my house." I nodded slowly. "Right. That must have been a while ago." "Few weeks back," Corey said, lifting the drill case into his car. "Didn't seem like work, to be honest." He paused. "Anyway, thanks, man. Tell her I said hey." I said I would, and I stood there in the driveway as he pulled away, holding a coffee that had gone cold in my hand. That was it. Not a gut feeling, not a slip of the tongue, just a memory, a timestamp. Jason. The same name she said in bed, the same name Monica had laughed about, and now a face, a night, a witness. 3 different people had confirmed the same man without knowing what they were confirming. It was never in my head. She hadn't just thought of him, she had seen him, been with him. And the worst part wasn't the betrayal, it was how easy it had been to hide. The house was silent when I went back inside. Not peaceful, just quiet in a way that made the walls feel further apart. I didn't feel like drinking, didn't feel like thinking. So I just sat in the same chair I always used, the one near the front window, angled toward nothing in particular. There was no rage, no image in my mind of her with him, no imagined scenes, no questions. The answers were already there. And worse, they'd been there for a while. She hadn't lied well. She just knew I wouldn't go looking. And I hadn't. Not really. Not until she gave it away with a name she didn't mean to say. It wasn't pride I felt, or heartbreak. It was something flatter than that, like watching the last 10 minutes of a movie you already knew the ending to. All I could think about was how simple it had been. A casual conversation, a mutual friend, her brother. None of them were covering for her. They just didn't know they were holding the knife. They handed it to me without realizing what they'd done. That night, when she came home, she kissed me on the cheek like she always did. Took off her earrings, said her meeting went long. I asked how it went. She said, "Fine, just exhausting." She didn't meet my eyes when she said it. I told her to go lie down, that I'd clean up. She smiled, "You're sweet." And just like that, she floated upstairs, still in our home, still under the illusion. A few weeks later, I was out on my own. A late lunch, nothing more. Some quiet place I hadn't been to in a while. Thai food, corner cafe, wide glass windows. It wasn't planned. I wasn't following her, wasn't checking up. I pulled into a space across the street, and there she was, inside. Not alone. Jason sat across from her. I didn't know his face before that moment, only his name, his presence. But I didn't need an introduction. It was in how she looked at him, how relaxed her shoulders were, how she laughed, mouth open, eyes down, hand brushing the edge of his sleeve. I stayed in my car, didn't move, didn't need to, because then it happened. She reached across the table slowly. Her fingers touched his wrist, then slid toward his hand. Not playful, not flirty, familiar. He didn't pull away, didn't even glance around. They weren't hiding. They weren't panicking. They were just there, like a couple. She wiped something off his lip. A crumb, a fleck of sauce, something small. But she did it gently, like it was normal, like it was hers to do, and that was the last thing I needed to see. She came home that evening and kissed me the same way she always did, told me her meeting had gone long, blamed traffic again, said I missed you, then went upstairs and changed out of the same dress she'd worn at lunch. I stood in the kitchen, alone, and let the picture burn into my head one last time. Her smile, his wrist, that cafe. There would be no confrontation, no scene, just an ending. The one she earned the moment she whispered his name in my bed. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. Not because I was calm, but because the noise had stopped. There were no more questions running in circles, no more trying to reconcile who she was with what I'd seen. The truth was simple now, and simple things don't echo. The next few days passed quietly. I went to work, she went to hers. We talked about groceries and weekend plans and nothing that mattered. She touched my arm when she laughed, kissed me goodbye in the mornings, and I let her. Not because I wanted her, but because I wanted her to stay exactly where she was. Comfortable, careless, unaware. That's how people make mistakes, when they think they're safe. Her father's birthday was coming up next weekend. She reminded me twice, asked what time we should leave, mentioned who'd be there. Family, close friends, the people who believed in her. I told her we'd be there early. She smiled. A few days before the birthday, I made arrangements. Not dramatic ones, just practical. I moved some money into a separate account, photocopied documents I'd need later, booked a short-term place for myself starting the following week. I didn't feel guilty doing it. Preparation isn't betrayal, it's clarity. She lay beside me that night, scrolling through her phone, feet tangled with mine. She looked relaxed, at ease. She believed she was managing two lives without either one touching the other. People always think that. I stared at the ceiling and counted the seconds between her breaths, and for the first time since she said his name, I wasn't waiting for anything anymore. I was ready. The day of her father's birthday arrived clean and bright. She was in a good mood from the start, hair curled, dress chosen early, moving through the house with that quiet confidence she used when she felt admired. She ironed my shirt without asking, packed a bottle of wine she'd been saving, kissed me on the cheek and said she was glad we were going. The drive was easy, music low, windows cracked. She rested her hand on my knee at a red light and smiled at me like we were solid. I let her. Her parents' house was already full when we arrived. The smell of roasted food hit us at the door. Voices layered over one another, laughter in the kitchen. Someone called her name and she lit up, stepping forward into hugs and compliments like she belonged there. She did belong there. That was the problem. Dinner took its time. Plates passed, stories repeated. Her father stood and thanked everyone, embarrassed by the attention, grateful in that quiet way men get when their life has turned out mostly right. The room relaxed after that. People leaned back, glasses refilled, conversations drifted. I waited, not for courage, for quiet. When it came, I pushed my chair back, just enough to be heard. I stood, looked at her parents first, then her brother, then at her. She's been sleeping with someone named Jason, I said. No pause, no apology. I know because she said his name in our bed. The room didn't explode. It collapsed. Lauren didn't speak. Her smile slid away slowly, like it didn't know where to go. She looked from face to face, searching for somewhere to land, and found nothing that would hold her. I didn't answer questions, didn't explain. I picked up my jacket, nodded once to her father, and walked out. The door closed behind me. I didn't go home that night. I checked into a small place off the highway I booked earlier and slept without waking. In the morning, I wrote an email to Jason's wife, whom contact I'd gotten weeks prior after confirming his affair with my wife. Yes, the fool was married. The email was short, direct, no adjectives. I told her my name. I told her my wife's name. I told her I'd seen them together and that this wasn't a misunderstanding. I told her she deserved the truth. I hit send, and that was it. I never followed up. I never got feedback. I don't know if she already knew. 3 weeks later, I heard through someone else that he'd moved out of his place. Another week after that, he wasn't with the firm anymore. No details, no spectacle. That was fine. I visited an attorney and filed for divorce the Monday after the dinner. No delay, no bargaining. A few days later, I had the papers served quietly. She didn't contest them. We divided what needed dividing. I kept the things that mattered to me. She kept the rest. We didn't meet again. She sent messages for a while, questions dressed up as remorse. I didn't answer. The documents said everything that needed saying. Months passed. I moved into a smaller place with more light than furniture. The quiet there was real. It didn't ask anything of me. Sometimes I thought about the night she said his name, not with anger, with accuracy. That was the moment the story told me how it would end. She didn't lose me because I caught her. She lost me because she told the truth without meaning to. And once I heard it, I finished the sentence myself. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and let's hear what you think. Until next time, take care.